It's episode 18 of Where Yellows Walk. It's 20 minutes of Oxford United chat. We're talking Owen Dale, worldies, fans booing for substitutions. And after we've, of course, reviewed that Millwall game, we'll talk about January window priorities in terms of transfers and the November Player of the Month. We've got Sam back with us to discuss all of that. Sam, how are you?
Good, thank you, yourself.
Good, thank you. And thank you very much for watching. First of all, the draw's just been made for the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Exeter away. You happy with that?
I'll put it this way. Obviously, it's a bit of a nightmare to get down there. Look, we all wanted I was hoping for either Bromley or Reading. Reading for obvious reasons. Bromley would have been a fun away day. But yeah, I don't think many of us are going to be kind of making the trip to Exeter. But we have got to sort of avenge a pre-season loss we had to them behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, it's hopefully, get game where a couple of youngsters can get some minutes in their legs, and any players coming back can do the same.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about that Millwall game then. Second half, especially the last, whatever it was, 15 minutes. That was like the old Oxford, wasn't it? That was like the Oxford we saw against Norwich.
It was quite interesting. There was a lot of similarities, I think, in that game to the West Brom result, in the sense that we were completely battered in that first half. Obviously, there was two pretty decent efforts from Scarlet and Goodrum inside 20 minutes. But full credit to Millwall, they piled on the pressure. They dominated in all the duels all over the pitch. And they maybe deserved a goal before Hafid Tanganga puts it in at the far post. There was one or two occasions they flashed it across the face of the goal, and it was either cleared by Brown and Moore or saved by Jamie Cummings. So, that goal was coming. And then obviously the second half was a marked improvement. Much better, much more the Oxford United, like you said, that we saw kind of start of the season. And obviously when you've got a lad like Tyler Goodrum who only scores one of the goals, there's always a get out of jail free card.
What is it about him? I mean, what's 3 or 4 for the season now?
It's a third of the season, yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain it?
I think it's just, but if you look at Tyler Goodrum, it's really interesting to see his trajectory, because obviously came through our youth system, had I think it was literally one game at Hayes in Yedding on loan during, I think it was 21-22, got real minutes under his belt in 22-23 under Carl Robinson. That was kind of his establishing himself as a first team regular, and then showed how important he can be to Oxford last season. Got 10 goals, 5 assists in I believe it was in the Championship, a couple of those all competitions. But it was, just constant development. And he's a player that is so interesting because, he's moved around so often in his career. He started his career, like his first minutes at youth level were as a defensive midfielder, then was moved out wide in his academy days. And then obviously Des has brought him into the 10 role where he did start and looked most effective at the weekend against Millwall. This lad just growing in confidence, just growing in ability. Every step up he makes, he just rises to the challenge. I love him. I want him to stay forever, but I think it's very adamant that he won't be an Oxford United player for many more years. I think maybe in the summer, if he kind of has an outstanding rest of the campaign, maybe the season after.
Absolutely. Watching him play. I love those players where it's just coming on the right foot, and you just know something special is going to happen. Millwall fans obviously were absolutely sick to the stomach. Want to ask you about another player though. Owen Dale. Comments here were tremendous yesterday. There's one post, so a lot of credit goes to him. He actually turned the game on his head, direct, aggressive, and he looked a threat. He must start on Saturday. Oxford says, great last 15. Owen Dale changed the game. He was so unfairly treated and offers much more energy and desire to run than any of our other wingers. Get him in that team next week. On that last point about being unfairly treated, do you agree with that?
I think Owen Dale is very much in that caliber of players, because what we can't keep forgetting is about that a lot of this team are upper League One standard players. At least, obviously, when we started the season, Owen Dale being one of them. Obviously, he was, I think, borderline fine in his last championship campaign when he played, some amount of minutes, but obviously he was on loan with Portsmouth the season before last. And it's just a case that, Owen will always give 100%. He will always run his backside off. And I think that was really evident. There was a challenge I think he went to make, I think in the 85th minute. He tries to make the challenge. He goes off the pitch. Then as soon as he can, literally swivels, gets back up on his feet, back in position to ready himself for the Millwall throw. I've always been one of Owen Dale's biggest supporters. I do get slightly frustrated when kind of he is. I think there are some of our fan base that are overly critical, but I think that also comes down to when results aren't necessarily going well, some fans will try and find a scapegoat, when the reality is that, as we've said time and time again here, Mark, we are not, we are very lucky to be in this championship at the minute. This season is about stabilizing, staying in this division to give ourselves the platform to then build further. And Owen Dale and other players in this squad, they are building blocks to helping us stay in this division.
Here. This was an interesting one. Oxymoron says, Jesus wept, people going on about Dale like he was Pele yesterday. He did okay against a tiring defence, but should be kept well away from a starting position. He's a mid-level League One winger. Any truth in that?
Like I say, the thing about Owen Dale is, and it's actually quite similar to Shemi Plaheta, in fact, is that he's always been so raw. His pace has been his biggest attribute. Always one of his main critiques that can always be leveled at Owen Dale is his lack of end product. We're still seeing, some lack of end product from Owen Dale, but his work rate is always the thing that makes him stand out. If you look at the back end of last season, didn't contribute to that many goals. I think there was maybe 1 goal and 3 assists, I think, since he signed. But his work rate, constantly chasing after the ball, constantly applying the pressure. And he's a very important cog in that machine that is Oxford United's press. If you look at, I'll take a very good example, that being the playoff final against Bolton. Ball from Ruben Rodriguez, put back to Sam Long on the right-hand side. Long literally hoofs it forward. And I think it's Dacus Cogley and Nathan Baxter. Neither of them make a decision. Owen Dale, because he's worked so hard, sees there's an opening, goes to make the interception. Nathan Baxter clatters him. And I think there was a lot of arguments about whether it was a penalty or not. It was right on the line, so it could have gone either way. That is why Owen Dale's work rate is so important to Oxford United, because, he will sniff out those opportunities when defenders are, yes, they may be tiring, but it's that extra burst of speed. You're not going to get that from Matt Phillips. As great as Matt Phillips is on the ball, he hasn't got that electric pace anymore that Owen Dale still does.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers for that. That leads us, I think, nicely on to the second topic we're looking at this week, which is the fans' reaction.
Yeah.
And we know Des has come out and spoken about this. Andrew says, oops, sorry. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. The fans booing the subbing of Scarlet for Harris because Harris is having a poor spell and not got a clue how to score. Why can't DB see that? Why not try Goodwin? Can't be any worse. First of all, on the booing, first of all, explain what you understood the jeering to be for. Some were saying it's because Phillips was left on the pitch.
I think it was more because we're at a point in a game where obviously we're looking for that goal. We're kind of in the ascendancy, and you take off our most informed man at this point in time in front of goal. I disagreed with the substitution, but it's not exactly something that's come out of the blue. Des has repeatedly done Harris for Dale or Dane for Harris or Harris for Dane 60 minutes in. It's repeatedly what he does, and there's a key reason behind it, and that is he demands so much running from his number 9 that by an hour in, they are blowing out their backsides to a certain extent. There is an argument that, Dane needs a sustained amount of minutes to kind of give him the confidence to keep scoring. But like I say, it's a simple tactical adjustment that Des has made time and time and time again. I was a bit bemused by the booing. And one thing I will make on that is, okay, the intention might have been, yes, okay, we don't agree with the substitution, but I've said it a couple of times, Mark, think about what that does to Mark Harris as a person, because again, we've talked about time and time again, this is a lad who his confidence at the minute is at rock bottom. His first touch of the ball, he couldn't keep control and gave it away. Like, Mark Harris is a player that thrives off confidence. I've said time and time again the anecdote that last season didn't score between August and January. We're in the same period. Mark Harris, he needs confidence. He needs people to kind of understand that this is a lad going through a dry patch. We need to get behind him. We need to sing his name, and we need to, have confidence that he can rebound and he can score the same number of goals that he did last season when he went through the exact same dry spell.
Okay. Well said. Fortunately, it doesn't stop fans booing, does it?
Yeah.
This is last point on this one. Nathan said, first of all, huge point. Next month is absolutely crucial to the season, given the fixtures we've have. Some winnable games coming up. Jake says, we look so much better after going 2 up front. Where's that last 10 minutes been, or last few weeks? It's Plymouth this weekend. It is away from home. They said to me earlier, if they don't beat Oxford, then Rooney is being sacked. So you could all the powers whether Wayne Rooney ever works in management again, let alone doesn't work at Plymouth again. Does he go 2 up front for this one?
I think first on the manager thing, I mean, we've already got one manager stacked so far this season. That's what happens when you lose to a team like Oxford. I think the 2 up top, I think in the latter stages of games, it's something that Des very much is looking to experiment with. We saw that though he was only on for 10 minutes, Will Goodwin made himself a real menace in that Millwall box because his height, his physicality. And I think that there is an argument potentially that you play Harris, Ordain, and Goodwin. You could never play Goodwin on his own as the number 9 because, again, as we've talked about, the work rate that Des Buckingham requires from his strikers, the pressing, Goodwin just doesn't have the mobility to do that. I would be very interested to see if Des, if we're an hour in, instead of making that change for Dane for Harris, if he goes, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take off, say if we're playing the 2 10s 4-3-3, I'm going to take off one of the 10s, take the wingers out wide, and basically go with a 4-2-4 to kind of apply as much pressure as humanly possible to try and get, if it's a winning goal in need, if it's an equaliser need, whatever. It's nice to see Nathan being positive. Because usually when Nathan Sweet Sharp, they're always negative. I will say this is obviously a very big time for this football club. I will say that obviously if we look at the fixtures in December, obviously back-to-back having Leeds and then Sheffield Wednesday, that's going to be an incredibly difficult week. I'm not expecting us to get any points out of those 2 games. I'm hoping for 12 points against the 2 games against Plymouth and then obviously against QPR and Cardiff. I think 9 would be acceptable. I'm hoping for 12. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, well, good luck against Plymouth this weekend. Their fans are already nervous talking about it. It's not even midweek yet.
Well, that's the thing we need to look at is obviously Plymouth away from home. Their past 2 games especially have been diabolical. You speak to their fans and, I know I've seen from takes online, they are not happy at all with the lack of performance away from home. But at home, they've managed to pull off some really big results. I think, did they pick up a 3-2 win against Sunderland, I think?
Yeah, they did. And 3-3 against Preston. Yeah. They're leaking goals even at home. Yeah, those results hide the fact that they are still leaking goals at home. So if you go on the attack against them, it's a very, very winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, brilliant. Let's leave the Millwall game aside there. Let's focus on January transfers then, because the list has been drawn up and down the country for what managers need. What's going to be top of Des's list if the loans or the cash is available to sign? What positions are we in need of?
First things first, we talked about a couple of times, Jack Curry will come back to this football club. Very notable, of course, we've just had the FA Cup weekend that Jack Curry has basically been stopped from playing in the FA Cup by Oxford United. Very evident he's going to be coming back, obviously. And it's looking like he could work in this system really, really well. A bit more of a reserve left back, a bit more defensive cover, allowing the wide man, whether it be Shemi Poiheta, whether it be Sariki Dembele, who looks like he's close to coming back, same with Kyle Edwards, to be a bit more expressive. In terms of the January window, it will entirely depend on... So Des said today that he and Ed Waldron have got their targets. It's whether kind of the desire from the players will be there and whether the funds will be made available by the club. The main thing is obviously we've got Kyle Edwards out of contract in January. Obviously, he's coming back very, very soon. It doesn't look like it's going to be the Plymouth game, but maybe the QPR game. So it's going to be a really big couple of games for Kyle Edwards to kind of prove that he deserves a contract till at least the end of the campaign. Other than that, it's really difficult because we are at our max squad allocation at this point. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, given the lack of minutes he's got, if Will Goodwin is sent out on loan to make room for Jack Curry. I also wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see one or two of the loans terminated. Maybe if it looks like Ben Nelson, although I'd love to keep him, if it looks like his recovery isn't going well and he's not going to be back in time, maybe there will be an agreement made by Leicester and Oxford that, you know, will terminate his contract so you can get a loan spot reopened. Same with Malcolm Abui. If it's a case that Des goes, look, I've not seen enough from this player, I think that might get terminated. So that will throw up 2 spots. In terms of what we need, it's got to be wide men and centre backs. Quite funny, but obviously those are the 2 players that might end up getting terminated. We need a new we need another centre back because look, we're it always seems to be this time of year we always go through injury crises at this football club, and it always seems to impact our defence. I would like, and it's obviously such a specific profile of centre back. I'd love another Ben Nelson. Whether we're going to get that is a massive if. I would like to see Oxford maybe explore the foreign market. There's a lot of links, obviously, over the summer, most notably to kind of players that Oxford were reportedly interested in. I wouldn't also be surprised, given having asked a question to Ed Waldron about something similar to this, about if we're looking at more development signings. So kind of young, like, 20 or under players that kind of come in, the club thinks are viable to feature, that don't need to be registered. Obviously, the main problem with that is those players that are kind of championship or upper League One quality that can contribute are going to cost a lot of money. So maybe it would end up being a couple more loans. Like I say, it's difficult because we are at capacity on our squad list at the minute.
Okay. Really comprehensive list. I'm sure there's going to be all the capacity for it, but fingers crossed you get most of it. November Player of the Month to finish off then. Before Sam gives us his view on it, drop yours in the comments below. There's a few contenders, but I think I know which way you're going to go. Surprise me.
I think runner-up has to be Cameron Brannigan. Has obviously only played 3 games since coming back from an injury, but you've seen how much we miss him. Just his industrial nature in that midfield. I thought he was very lucky not to get a booking against Millwall because there was a very rash challenge he put in. But that's just Cameron Brannigan. When he's a bit hacked off, he will go and try and take someone out. But for me, player of the month has got to be Dane Scarlet. 2 goals in November. A player that's really grown into this Oxford side. Obviously, another goal in the international break. Again, that just boosts his confidence, and really could have had at least 2 more with the shot against Millwall and the flash cross face goal against Watford. It's really healthy having this competition up front because we didn't really have it last season. So, we were kind of, as much as I love Mark Harrison, like I've said previously, keep the faith in him. It's good to have Dane Scarlett to come in and push him and provide some competition. And, I will credit him because when Dane started playing, I was very critical of his work rate. Going, he's not running enough. He's not pressing in the way that Oxford sides do typically. He's much improved. Maybe they need a bit of time to kind of bed in and settle, but he's looks so much better. And I think, I think regardless of how many more goals he gets this season, it's going to be heartbreaking to lose him, because, the old saying, don't fall in love with a lone player. I think we, in recent weeks, have fallen in love with Dane Scarlet.
Absolutely. I wonder if I can ask you, because we were talking to Middlesbrough fans about Ben Doak, and clearly they've been saying, well, he's definitely Premier League class playing in a championship. Is Dane Scarlet, do you think, Premier League class, or do you think, from what you've seen so far, that he's clearly a good championship level player, but would he wouldn't go straight into a Tottenham side, would he?
I don't think he could. That's the real problem, is that obviously, I think we've talked about previously, Mark, is that the main problem of Dane Scarlett's career is that he came off that production line at Tottenham where it was him and Troy Parrott were held up as, these are the successors to Harry Kane. That's an enormous space to fill. And getting, praise from Jose Mourinho, that's more pressure on his shoulders than, going on loan to Portsmouth, week in, week out, walking out of Fratton Park, which, although we've, they are the opposition we've played the most times in our respective histories. It's a very ominous atmosphere to walk out into, Fratton Park. I think a loan like this has really helped him, because it's really, this has been the first one he's been able to kind of grow and mature. I could see him maybe, I think he'd be looking at like maybe a Fulham in a couple of years. I think that's maybe his level of Fulham, or, that kind of, lower end Premier League sides. I can't see him being a top end Premier League player. I think what would really benefit him maybe is going abroad. We've seen what the benefits of a lot of English players going abroad, maybe to, Germany, or maybe that would be his next move to maybe, if St. Pauli stay up in the Bundesliga, maybe he'd go there, or somewhere where kind of he can experience a new type of football that he's not experienced in the youth levels and in the few senior games he's played in England.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you as always, Sam, and always let us know what you think in the comments below. Good luck against Plymouth. We'll see you in 7 days' time, where we'll review all of that. Thank you again very much for watching, and drop us a subscribe if you haven't done so already. See you next